Hi, AP Psychology. I am here today to orient you to how I communicate with you all and how I make sure you all understand what is expected of you on a day-to-day and a week-to-week basis, and how these resources are all going to work. So we're really going to have two central hubs for our class this year. The first major hub is going to be my website, and you should be here enough that I would recommend that once you get to my main page, historyharris.weebly.com, I would suggest that you click AP Psychology. That's your main window into this, and that will lead you into the course page for us. I would recommend that you go ahead and bookmark that, make that an easy page to get to, because you will be referring to this website quite a bit over the course of this year. Some of the stuff is really obvious. If you still need a copy of your student syllabus, you can see it's over here on the right. That parent letter that I sent home to you and your parents before school started is over here, as well as the 189-page course description. So if you want to look at what the College Board says you need for success in AP Psychology, that is there. I will warn you, I'd say about 75% of that is designed more to be a teacher's guide, but it is public information, and I wanted you to be able to have access to that to refer to some of the student-oriented parts if you want to. So you can see right off the bat, I have some first steps. So if you have not done so already, please follow this link, create a College Board account, and that will give you access to AP Classroom. It will ask you for a join code so you can join your class, and that is right here, the EQVEGD. College Board account is going to be used most importantly for your AP test. That is how College Board knows you want to take a test. That is how they will communicate with you for that test. Generally, we suggest you use a non-school email for this account. So that way, as you're graduating and moving on and trying to get your scores in July, you are still able to access those. I'm not sure if it gives you two email accounts. If so, please use your Valley Park and an alternate one that's not linked through Valley Park as well. But we do need that also because some of our assessments will be done through that also this year. So I'm still trying to figure out how our big tests are going to work with our switch to virtual. However, that is one of the options, and we will be at least doing some practice tests through that, if not some of our larger unit tests as well. As you go through, you can follow through on the rest. Hopefully you've already started watching the Stephen Chu video series. If not, that is where you're accessing this also. But then we get into the resources that you're using on a regular basis. So I tried to make this a one-stop shop for you so you can log in and see whatever links you need to get to. So general resources, my AP login is going to be how you access your AP account. That's the College Board classroom and that kind of stuff we just figured out. Myers Psychology for AP Resources website, and I'm just going to click over onto that one. That's the one by the publisher of your book. So I don't have any control over these sources, but they do sort flashcards by the modules, and as we'll discuss in a minute, your textbook is organized into modules. Spanish flashcards, videos, which take some of the more challenging concepts and will make an instructional video for it. So those are great resources for you also, as well as just a few other overview things that you can see within that. So that is linked right from here. College Board's course description you've seen above. If you have not seen yet what the university choice would be for how to determine the score you need and if your school will take AP Psychology, that's what this link is for. Want to see how your university choice awards credit for AP tests. So let's just say you're planning to go to Missouri State, which was where I went. So I can type in and say, I want to go to Missouri State University. And as you scroll down, it's going to give you a list of every AP class that they're going to take. So in our case, if you're not familiar with this trick, you can Control F, and that will help you find anything on a page. So we can just type psychology. It'll take us straight to it. And so what this is telling you, if you earn a 4 on AP Psychology, I'm sorry, am I telling you correctly? Yes, you need to earn at least a 4 on AP Psychology. If you do, they will give you 3 credit hours. That's equivalent to 1 class in most universities. And that will show up on your transcript as PSY 121, which is just their introduction to psychology class. And you basically can bypass that intro class and get into the more interesting courses. You can see some schools are more strict or less strict. Some schools might give you 6 credit hours and give you a full year's worth of credit rather than just 1 semester's worth of credit. You can see if you were going on to take like AP Spanish language and culture, the scores actually, the amount of credit varies by the scores you get. And so each exam is different and each school is different. So I encourage you, follow that website and see what your plans look like so that you know what your target needs to be for this class and for your other AP courses. Most Cited Psychologists of the 20th Century, that's just an interesting resource for you to check out. A lot of students use weak flashcards, and as you read the syllabus, you saw that format already. So these are the 2 different formats of the style that I recommend. One of them will allow you to print directly on a 3x5 note card if you're so inclined. The other one, as it says, you can print 4 flashcards on a single sheet of paper and cut those out as you need to. The next resource that's going to be a big thing this year, and this is new for me, so as I click on this, it's going to dead end us. But I'm going to be posting a lot of my direct instruction on YouTube this year. And so I made a playlist just for our course. So this link will take you directly to that playlist anytime you need to get there. So if I forget to send you the exact link, there's nothing here yet. By the time you see this, you'll be accessing this video from that also. So I will code the titles based on what the topic of the video is and what unit we're in. So I will tell you what those codes are as I'm assigning certain videos for you to watch. But these unit resource pages are where we're going to slow down and really dive into what we're expected from. So you can see we only have 2 highlighted that are active right now. History and Approaches, which is where we're going to spend a little bit more time. But I want to go to Motivation and Emotion here first. I left that live just for us to explore what these look like in a normal unit. So History and Approaches is a little bit lean, and so it's not showing us as much. So what you're typically going to see is something like this. Unit outline is always going to be hyperlinked when we're active in a unit, and we'll show you that in History Approaches in a second. Psych sims are virtual simulations. They can basically make you a little more hands-on with our content. And so in addition to just reading or having me talk about it, we are also letting you get a little hands-on. So there are a lot of those out there. Some of them I require you to do, and others I just leave as optional. And so you can see for this unit, I've required 2 of them when we get to that. And I have 2 that I'm saying, hey, if you're interested in more of those, you're welcome to do those. But by all means, if it says additional, that's not required, but they're there for you. You'll also notice I give a lot of extra resources. Sometimes these are YouTube videos, sometimes these are articles. And in this case, you can see required. That means that at some point in that unit, I'm telling you, you have to complete those. That is structured for you. We'll get to that in a second. But then sometimes you just get more interested in a certain unit. And so if I have good stuff, maybe I've used it in the past or don't use it anymore. Maybe it was just really fascinating, but it wasn't something that is really tied to our curriculum well enough to spend our time on it. I put those additional resources down here also. And so we can look at, like, this one's talking about attractiveness of people. Real life facts about Masters and Johnson, who were sex researchers and one of the early people that started to do that. And so we can start to see lots of different types of resources you can find. The bottom half of this is always the same, no matter what we are, no matter what unit we're on. AlleyDog is a resource, and I'll just open that one up also. AlleyDog is there. You can enter any psychology term, and you're going to find out a lot of stuff about it. So if we just look up classical conditioning, because that's the first random term that comes into my mind. And from there, it's going to take us to a basic definition. You can make flashcards with it. It will actually allow you to start studying with flashcards as well. And certain concepts or certain people are going to have a lot more information than others. So this is just a good, like, quick resource if you're struggling with a concept to get a different perspective on it. Education Portal AP Psych Review is just another source where you can go and get information divided by unit. So that is a nearly complete AP Psych course. It's just pared down a little bit to really cut down to what those main ideas are. So I'm going to go back to the main AP Psychology page. So our first unit of the semester is History and Approaches of Psychology. So you can see this one doesn't have nearly as much stuff on it, but what it does have is that unit outline. So this unit outline will be the single most important resource you have on any given unit. And so let's open this up and talk about why this is such a critical resource for you. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit on it just to be able to have this so we can discuss it a little bit more. Each one of these has several different parts. The first part here doesn't change a whole lot, but then you have the schedule. What do I expect this unit schedule to look like? You're going to have course objectives, and then you're going to have the actual outline below. And so I'm going to walk through those with you with a little more detail for all of them. Most importantly, I want to make sure that we get a chance to talk about what these are. These do require a little bit of flexibility. Sometimes things just don't quite go the pace that we expect them to. Maybe I get sick, maybe something is just more challenging for us than we expected it to be, and so we've had to rearrange our time a little bit. But this is the basic outline. I try to get this to you, and I try to have all the resources to you as soon as a unit is going to start so that you can pace your own time. These unit guides are designed to eliminate excuses by giving you as much information as I have so that you can plan your own schedule. If you know you have something going on one of these nights coming up, then you work ahead rather than get behind and have to worry about catching up later. So this is designed where you have everything you're supposed to have. This is available online. It's also available in our Google Classroom. You can get this anytime you need to get it. And so it really eliminates a lot of excuses we might have to not get anything done. So I would like to point out just this bulleted list. The date things are listed. Notice as you look at the dates, it says by Wednesday, 8/27. So that means by the time we have class on that date, that assignment should already be finished. That is not saying I'm assigning the work on Wednesday. I've assigned it when we're giving this out. And so you can pace it as you feel necessary. But by Wednesday, you should already have the Ask Mr. Harris questions on Google Classroom should be completed. And you should have already read my syllabus. I do not talk about my syllabus in class. This is a college level course, and you should be responsible for handling that and just answering any questions that we may have. And of course, reading the parent letter. So that means by Wednesday, those should be done. That also means that by Wednesday, anything in the unit up to that point is fair game for a reading check. So if I give them, that's one of the other no excuses pieces of this. If I give you a reading check on Wednesday, those are typically just, we don't make those up. You're expected to be accountable on certain dates for the material, and we're expecting that you're living up to that. So know that those are the due dates. If it's not, the assignments are considered late if they're not turned in at the beginning of class on the date listed. And in the case of this year, that's going to be the time on Google Classroom. I should have them by the time class starts, though. Any assigned materials, fair game for quizzes and tests. And that is an important thing for us that I believe I wrote in the syllabus, but just to make sure we hear it. I don't talk about everything. And there are a lot of topics that are just easy, and a responsible student is going to see that definition in the book, be able to make their own connection to it. And I don't need to spend any time giving additional information or additional examples for it. So if it's assigned, whether that means I have talked about it in one of my direct instruction videos, or I've mentioned it in class, or I've assigned a reading for it, that is fair game. And just to give you an example straight off the bat, one of these sections, if I can see it really quickly, there's one of these readings, and I'm not seeing the exact one right now. One of these readings is about like the roles of psychologists and what different types of psychologists do. That's one of those types of things, like there's not a whole lot I can add from what the resources already have. And so you still are accountable for knowing that. That stuff will show up on tests. It may show up on reading quizzes. And by the date that you're supposed to read that, it should be done by that point. And just know that it's all fair game. If it's been addressed in one of my videos, if it has been in the textbook or any other supplemental readings, it's fair game, and you should know that you will be held accountable for all of that information. I may alter the schedule. Sometimes they're going to go perfectly. Other times you might notice that we're running a little out of sync, but it'll catch itself back up. Sometimes I just missed something and we'll be adding it in later on. So if I change it, it's your responsibility to make sure that you have modified your own copy of this accordingly. so that you're adjusting and making sure that everything is there. My goal, if I'm ever changing it, is never to make it harder. So if I add something, I will do my best to try to take it away. Most of the time when that happens, we need to move some dates around and maybe just say, hey, whatever was due on Friday is not going to be due on Monday. So we'll see how that plays out. This is going to be a new, interesting learning environment for us this year. So the core objectives that are laid out at the bottom of this page are the big picture concepts of the unit. So when we look at our first unit, you should be able to look at these and say, okay, I should be able to, by the time we get to this first major assessment, talk about the pre-scientific roots of psychology relating to the nature of the mind and inborn qualities. And in addition to that, if I'm skipping down, I should be able to identify significant contributions of major historical figures. Later on, we'll actually see names listed with those. There's just too many names to list in this historical piece. And so this is what you need to know by the time the unit is over on a bigger scale. As we look down to the next page, this is the outline of how the order I intend to teach it. And I do like to point out, this is not necessarily the order that is presented in the textbook. So please be aware of that. If you see that the textbook seems to go out of order, that means I'm planning on going in the order on this outline. And this is there based on my plans, not necessarily the book. So every single point you see here is a name or a concept that you are accountable for knowing and understanding. And when we say knowing and understanding, you should be able to define this concept. You should be able to talk about the importance of this concept, and you should be able to apply that concept. So in the course of history, there's less of that application piece. But once we hit into our main units, if there's a concept there, you should be able to take any random event in life and be able to say, here's how this would go towards, here's where that concept could apply. And that's going to be the essence of what AP Psychology is about, is we are largely a vocab course. So there is something like 500 words that we need to know. And again, that means know, understand, and be able to apply it into real life. And there's about 50 to 60 names of people that we need to know by the time this course is all said and done. So this first unit, we're going to introduce a lot of them, and we'll get to know them a lot more as we keep going. But as we go through, each unit gives you those core objectives, and each unit gives you this outline. So that outline can be a great study guide for you. I will not give you another study guide as we get closer to a unit, because this is it. This is everything there is. And so as you're reading, this would be a great thing for you to go through and just check yourself. Hey, as I was reading through and taking notes, do I understand what trepanning is and what its links were to psychology? And if you missed that in some way, then that should be a red flag for you to go back and make sure you find it out. And whether that's asking one of your peers, whether it's asking me, there are times that I miss something, in which case asking me will point that out and remind me that, hey, we need to talk about a concept that I may have missed in some of my own preparation. So if we scroll back to the top of this, I think we covered the rest of these big points. Most of the time, it's just going to say module. So as we start to look down onto the work of Monday 8/31, it says just Myers Module 1. So what you'll notice in a lot of college courses is there's multiple textbooks, and so we have to identify them, and we usually identify those through authors. So when it says Myers, that's this one. Oh no, it's not showing up. It's the blue one. It has the bike on it. If I do this, I'm seeing flashes of it. But it's the blue one with the bike trail on it. Myers Psychology for the AP course. And as you open that up and start to flip through, you'll see on the top right corner, modules are labeled. And so unless it's otherwise noted, you should be able to read through that module. And then, as we have outlined up here, when that module is assigned, thoughtfully read it. Make sure you're not ignoring anything on the pages. So there are guiding questions. Use those to prime your brain to really learn. Look at the definitions on the side of the page. Look at the charts and the graphs and the illustrations. All that stuff is there to deepen your understanding. And if you are one of those students who only looks at the text without considering the charts and the pictures that are there, that will ultimately come down and hurt you. There are certain units that are just, a lot of the information comes down to some of the graphs that it refers to. So at the end of each module, there are review questions. So review those. both the guiding questions and the review questions. Make sure you are slowly reading in a way that you are understanding everything that you are supposed to understand. And then use those practice questions at the end. I'm happy to share answers if you need them. Most of the time, though, that would just be a quick refer back to the text to make sure you have it. I also recommend that you take your own notes based on the textbook. That'll help make a nice lineup between what you're getting from me and what you're getting from the textbook. What I have recommended to students in the past is if you use this outline that we have in the textbook, or I'm sorry, that I give you on this unit outline, if you use this one, use that as the structure of your notes, and maybe leave a couple spaces between your textbook readings and what I will be supplementing with those. Sometimes I use Myers definitions. I'd say for at least a third of the terms, I have definitions I like better than Myers. And so I will give you maybe an alternate definition of a concept, or I'll give you some examples that make it a little more real for you. So some people take the textbook notes, they take their lecture notes, and then they figure out how those work together. I would really recommend you find a way to make those integrate with each other. So that could look as, if we just say Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, you write a couple lines about what the book says, and then when you get to my take on it, you have a couple lines available where you can add those in. Other times people like to go side by side, and so maybe you're going to have a column of the textbook and it's going to say Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, maybe over in the margin. You have your notes there, and then you leave a second column over where you can add some extra stuff. So those are two approaches, and I'm happy to show you how those work out if you need me to. But in college, a lot of the note taking is up to your personal preference. It's important that you have them. It's important that they're a good tool for you. It is less important that you do it a certain way by the time we're at a college level course. But I'm happy to give some more detailed suggestions and kind of show you how those could look if that's something that you are needing some help on structuring those. So these are the unit outlines. I will also caution you that this unit outline should be what you go towards as your go-to resource. I have to input our weekly plans on Infinite Campus every week. I also will be inputting stuff on Google Classroom. However, those are trying to link to this. My current plan will probably be to just copy and paste this into Infinite Campus for us on a weekly basis, but it makes a whole lot more sense for you to have the entire unit laid out for us there instead. I think that covers us on unit outline and its procedure here. Let's head back to the website. So the next piece that we needed to address would be your AP Classroom, and I'm in World History by accident. You probably had a little bit of time to play with this already. If you have not, just click around a little bit. So that's one of the best ways to learn, and I'm still trying to learn this on mine as well. My screen might look a little different from yours as the teacher, but I know that those tabs are similar up there. So what we want to look at here, if there's an important announcement, if there's an important change, I will put it on this stream. So if there is a question that you think would benefit the entire class for me to address with everybody, or something that you know, hey, I'm going to be asking about more detail about this concept in class, that would be a good thing for the stream, but it's mostly going to be an announcement board for us. Classwork will be on here as well. This will be our primary point for turning in classwork. So at this point, Ask Mr. Harris, we can see if you look to the right, is due on August 26th by noon so that I have it before we get to class. This will be the general format you're going to see through these. The other thing that I come in this classwork page for you are these two links, the Google Calendar and Class Drive folder. If you go to Google Calendar, hopefully it just opens up your class here. So this is showing all of them, as yours probably does as well. I have synced all of our Zoom meetings into this. Let's get rid of all this other stuff and just look at ours. So we can see this will post, I believe it posts when assignments are due. It does. So we can see here just code it in the color that it has automatically assigned our class. Your calendar should be the same also. So you can see on Friday, it says assignment, Stephen Chu videos are due. You can click on that. It will give you the link to get back into the assignment. If you ever lose that link to get into our classroom or into our class meetings, those are here also. So if you just click on, hey, at 2 o'clock on Wednesday, we're supposed to meet, there's the Zoom meeting link right there. So, and we can go all the way towards the end of the semester. We get to December 30th, which we don't even have school at that point, but there's still a meeting scheduled. But December 16th, we can click on it. There's our access link. So this is a tool for you to continuously have, and this will have all of your due dates, all of your class meetings, and anything that changes will also change in the calendar. The other thing that you need to be aware of is the class drive folder. Class drive folder, I've already organized into units, which you should see here shortly. So yours probably has a different view on it. Yours probably is going to look like this. And if you like my view better, it's just that button. But you can see here, we have the first unit, History and Approaches, is already preloaded with a couple of the items we're going to need. The unit outline is, again, right here ready for you. So every time I finish unit outline, it will end up in the appropriate folder. You will notice one of the assignments is a Bernstein reading. So that's one that normally I would hand out in class, but I'm not going to see you in person. So we have it in Google Drive. And so as you go into Google Drive, you can just click on it and we see there's the reading that you're assigned. And any work that's assigned with it will either be on that unit outline or it'll be posted in Google Classroom. If there's not work assigned with it, that just means it's information that you're accountable for, and you should expect a reading check and a test that will cover that information. The other piece that we're going to see as we go back into that main folder is course resources. So your course resources page is where I'm putting anything that doesn't really relate to a specific unit. So in this case, the parent letter you've already seen, the course description, the student syllabus, as well as this that was assigned or will be assigned on how to take reading notes for a college level class. So this AP Classroom is going to be where most of our resources are. And if you get comfortable between Classroom and my Weebly page, that will cover you for everything we're going to expect you to do. I need to reiterate again, follow these unit outlines, follow them closely. A lot of students prefer having them in paper, so you may still want to print one out so you can actually use these core unit objectives and quiz yourself on them. Use these outlines and actually use that as a foundation for you. So those are always in both places, but those are the real cores that we need to spend our time going with, and that's why we have it in both locations. I think that covers it for things that I was wanting to deal with. On this one, we have the familiarity of my website and the importance of being able to access the AP Psychology page. We talked about the importance of unit outlines and how those will govern our units and how to access our Google Drive and our Google Calendar. Please, if you have any questions or concerns after watching this, feel free to shoot me an email or ask in class as we start to figure out how this new virtual semester is going to work. I want to make this as effective and streamlined for you all as well. So if there's something where it's working more easily in one way than another, please communicate that with me as well. But as always, please ask me for whatever questions that we may have. I'm always here and ready to answer and help you out as best as we can. Looking forward to working with you and seeing you all soon. Thank you.